Imagine yourself in the middle of the Arctic, surrounded by a white ocean of snow and ice. The wind cuts through your skin like tiny invisible blades, and the temperature plummets to -40 degrees Celsius. There are no trees, no shelter. Just you and the frozen immensity. Now think fast. How would you survive? For the Inuit, this is not a hypothetical situation. For generations, they have developed a technique so precise and efficient that it can turn loose snow into a solid house in less than 2 hours. And the most impressive thing? This construction not only protects from the extreme cold, but can keep an interior up to 40 degrees warmer than the outside, with human warmth alone. But how is this possible? How can a material as fragile as snow become a structure tough enough to withstand Arctic storms? The secret is in the details. And to understand how a real igloo is made, we first need to talk about something that few people know. Not all snow is suitable for building an igloo. Choosing the wrong snow can be the difference between a safe night and a freezing disaster. So, do you want to find out how the Inuit master this ancient art? Then subscribe to our channel and join me on this journey. The perfect snow for building an igloo. If you think that any snow will do to build an igloo, you can forget that idea now. A common mistake beginners make is trying to pile up fluffy snow as if they were going to build a giant snowman. But that would never work. For an igloo to be solid and durable, it needs to be made with a specific type of snow, packed snow. The Inuit have developed a simple but ingenious technique to find this perfect snow. They use a traditional hunting stick and drive it into different piles of snow. If the stick sinks in too easily, the snow is too weak. If it barely gets in, it's too hard. But if the stick meets firm resistance and still manages to penetrate, that's the ideal snow. And here's a surprising fact. Experienced Inuit hunters can test up to 40 different spots before finding the perfect snow to start building on. That's because snow doesn't compact evenly. Wind, humidity, and temperature directly affect the structure of the ice crystals, making some areas better than others. But why is this snow so special? Because, when cut into blocks, it forms a stronger structure than concrete of the same thickness. This is because the snow crystals, when pressed, create micro-connections of ice that increase the strength of the material. Now that we've found the perfect material, we can start building. But before stacking the blocks, there's a crucial step that will determine whether the igloo will stand or collapse in the middle of the night. The invisible foundation that supports everything. We've found the perfect snow, but that still doesn't mean we can just start stacking blocks. Before anything else, the Inuit prepare the ground, and this is the stage that can define the success or failure of the igloo. First, the chosen site needs to be leveled. They use their snow shovels to compact the soil and create a firm surface. If this base is not well prepared, any small irregularity can make the igloo unstable, and nobody wants to wake up in the middle of the night buried in snow. But the most interesting part comes now. The shape of the base is not made by eye. The Inuit use a simple and precise method to mark out a perfect circle, which is essential to ensure that the blocks are aligned correctly. One hunter holds one end of a rope in the center of the chosen area, while another walks around with the other end, drawing an impeccable circle on the ground. Like a giant compass, this process ensures that each block is placed in the right place. Now it's time to cut the first blocks. And this isn't as simple as it sounds. Each one needs to be an exact size, and the first block in particular must be placed with a slight inclination inwards. This small detail is what starts the curve that will gradually turn a pile of snow into a sturdy dome. But how do you ensure that the blocks hold firm and that the structure remains stable as it rises? There's an ingenious technique for this, and it's older than modern engineering. The secret of the spiral wall. With the base ready and the first blocks cut to size, the most impressive stage of construction begins, raising the walls. But it's not just a matter of stacking blocks on top of each other. There is a secret behind the Inuit technique that transforms these pieces of snow into a structure so strong that it can withstand winds of more than 100 kilometers per hour. Instead of assembling straight rows, the Inuit arrange the blocks in an upward spiral. Each layer slopes slightly inwards, creating the natural curvature of the igloo. And it is precisely this curvature that distributes the weight evenly, preventing the structure from collapsing. But the most ingenious detail is in the cuts. When carving the blocks, the Inuit carefully adjust the edges so that each piece fits precisely into the next. This eliminates empty spaces and creates such a firm bond between the blocks that, over time, the igloo's own internal heat causes small layers to melt and solidify again, reinforcing the structure. And here's a curious fact. Contrary to what many people think, the top of the igloo is not built separately and put in place afterwards. The spiral shape means that the construction gradually closes until only a small opening remains at the top. But it is precisely at this last stage that the most critical moment of construction lies. A single mistake when fitting the final piece can jeopardize the entire structure. And the challenge of fitting this last block is not as simple as it sounds. The block that holds everything together. After spiraling upwards and leaving only a small opening at the top, the most critical moment of the igloo's construction arrives: the fitting of the final block, known as the king block. This single piece of snow is what transforms a pile of stacked blocks into a self-supporting structure. But fitting this piece together is not easy. First, the block needs to be slightly larger than the opening it will cover. That's because it can't simply be placed on top. It needs to be adjusted under pressure to create a perfect fit. The Inuit cut this block in the shape of a truncated pyramid, i.e. with the base slightly smaller than the top. This shape means that when the block is pressed into the opening, it locks into place and distributes the force evenly throughout the dome. Now imagine the difficulty. The builders are outside, holding a large heavy block, trying to fit it with millimeter precision above their heads, in the extreme cold and wearing thick gloves. And here's an impressive detail: even the most experienced Inuit hunters get this part wrong in 2 or 3 attempts before they get it right. But when the king block finally gets in the right place, something magical happens. The whole structure strengthens, the blocks press together, and the igloo becomes self-supporting. No extra support is needed. At this point, the builders pause and watch in silence. It's the moment of truth. If everything has been done correctly, the igloo is ready to face the Arctic storms. But before they can celebrate, one essential detail is still missing. Without it, spending the night in the igloo can be a suffocating experience literally. The invisible secret that keeps the igloo habitable. With the king block in place and the structure self-supporting, the igloo looks ready. But there's still one crucial detail missing that could be the difference between a safe night's sleep and a real Arctic nightmare: ventilation. It may sound strange, but a well-built igloo needs a small hole at the top. This is because, without ventilation, the internal heat and the breathing of the people inside the igloo rapidly increase the humidity in the air. Over time, the excess water vapor can condense and form a layer of ice on the inside walls. Not only does this make the environment colder and more humid, but it can also end up completely blocking the entry of oxygen. And if that happens, well, you can imagine the risk. The Inuit have known this for centuries, which is why they always carve a small hole in the top of the igloo. It's not big, about the size of a closed fist, but it's enough to keep the air circulating. What's more, the entrance to the igloo is never a simple hole in the wall. It is built below the level of the internal floor, creating a natural system called a cold trap. This ingenious trick takes advantage of a simple principle of physics: cold air is heavier than hot air. Thus, the cold air that enters through the entrance tunnel sinks and is trapped in the lower part of the igloo, while the warmer air, generated by the human body and the seal fat lamps, rises and keeps the living area more comfortable. And here comes the surprising bit. This combination of insulation and human warmth can keep the inside of the igloo up to 40 degrees Celsius warmer than the outside without the need for heaters or heavy blankets. But can an igloo really be comfortable? After all, we're talking about a shelter made of snow. Well, the answer to that will surprise you. How an igloo becomes a warm and comfortable shelter. If you think that sleeping in an igloo is like spending the night freezing surrounded by snow, prepare to change your mind. The Inuit turn these shelters into incredibly efficient and even comfortable spaces, even in the most extreme Arctic conditions. The first secret lies in the material itself. Unlike ice, which is an excellent conductor of cold, compacted snow is full of tiny air bubbles, which makes it a perfect thermal insulator. This means that while outside temperatures can plummet to -40 degrees Celsius, inside the igloo the temperature can remain around 0 degrees Celsius to 5 degrees Celsius, enough to guarantee a safe and habitable environment. It may not seem very warm, but after spending hours in the biting cold of the Arctic, the difference is enormous. But the Inuit go further. To further improve insulation, they cover the floor of the igloo with caribou skin. This natural material is not only soft and comfortable, but is also one of the best thermal insulators in the world, capable of keeping body heat away from the ice below. Some Inuits also build small raised platforms to sleep on, as the warm air rises, and being higher up in the igloo means staying warmer. And there's more. The Inuit use small lamps called kullik, made of stone and fed with seal fat. These lamps provide a soft light and constant heat, enough to keep the environment even more comfortable without melting the walls of the igloo. But perhaps the most impressive thing is that, over the course of the days, the igloo itself is strengthened by the internal heat. The slight melting of the inner layers turns the snow into a thin layer of ice, making the structure even more resistant to wind and storms. Now imagine being in the middle of a blizzard, with winds howling outside, while inside the igloo you are protected, warm and comfortable. Sounds almost unbelievable, right? But the Inuit haven't just mastered this technique, they depend on it to survive. And in some situations, an igloo can mean the difference between life and death. The igloo as a shelter for extreme survival. For the Inuit, the igloo is not just a temporary shelter, it can be the only chance of survival in an extreme situation. During hunting trips or long journeys in the Arctic, storms can suddenly roll in, bringing winds so strong that no modern tent could withstand them. At such times, building a quick igloo may be the only way to escape certain death. And here's something impressive. An experienced Inuit can erect a basic igloo in around 2 hours. That's faster than it takes many people to put up a camping tent in the cold. But why is the igloo so superior to tents? Firstly, the igloo's aerodynamic design deflects the wind rather than resisting it. Unlike a tent, which can be torn or blown over by the wind, the igloo's dome causes the wind to pass smoothly over it, making it incredibly stable. What's more, the igloo doesn't need stakes, tarpaulins, or external structures. It is built from the environment itself, using only compacted snow, which means it can be made almost anywhere there is suitable snow. Another crucial benefit? Safety from predators. The Arctic isn't just cold, it's also home to some of the most dangerous hunters on the planet, such as the polar bear, which has a powerful sense of smell capable of detecting prey from miles away. A well-built igloo helps contain the smell of food, making it difficult for predators to detect the hunters sleeping inside. But the most impressive thing about igloos is not just their efficiency as a shelter. It's the fact that this technology has been used for thousands of years and even today remains one of the most intelligent solutions ever created for surviving in the extreme cold. Now, after all this, comes the final question. Do you think you could build an igloo on your own in the middle of the Arctic? The lesson behind the igloo. The igloo isn't just a snow house. It's a symbol of the Inuits' incredible intelligence and resilience. While most people would see a frozen environment as an uninhabitable place, the Inuits saw opportunities. With centuries of knowledge passed down from generation to generation, they have mastered a construction technique that defies the extreme cold and turns snow, something that could be deadly, into a tool for survival. And the most impressive thing? This technique is still being used today, proving that sometimes the simplest solutions are the most effective. Now tell me, after knowing all these secrets, do you think you could build a real igloo? Or does this ancient art still seem like an impossible challenge? Leave your comment below. And if you enjoyed this video and want to learn more about the incredible traditions of the Inuit and how they dominate one of the most extreme environments on the planet, you already know. Subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next videos. See you next time.